only 1 week left of the regular season before the playoffs take place. The Packers are hit with a bit of a challenge, and that is, do they rest their starters or not against the Chicago Bears? We're going to talk about that in this video. First, I want to give a shout out to the three guys on your screen: Rashawn Gary, Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs, all being Pro Bowl selected. For Rashawn Gary and Xavier McKinney, it was their first Pro Bowl selection. Hats off to Brian Gutekunst, two of the three guys on your screen he picked up in free agency this last year. Josh Jacobs, his third Pro Bowl appearance, and Xavier McKinney, who's had a monster year for the Green Bay Packers. A little bit shocked by the Rashawn Gary selection. Leave your comments. Let me know. Are you guys as surprised as I was to find out that Rashawn Gary was selected this year? I thought in previous years he got snubbed. You can look statistically, he had a better year last year with 9 sacks. And then back in 21, when I think he got snubbed, he had 9.5 sacks then, and 6.5 this season. He had a much better second half of the season once they parted ways, ironically enough, with Preston Smith, and they had to lean into their younger guys. I would say Kingsley Enagbare and Bretton Cox kind of paved the way, not Lucas Van Ness, but I would say those two guys paved the way for Rashawn Gary's better, successful second half of the season. Leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts there. So the Packers, with their new challenge of, hey, do we sit our starters, or do we play them against the Chicago Bears, a game in which they probably will, win, even if they do sit a lot of their starters? I just don't think it would be wise for them to do that. The Packers, it says right here, starters will play week 18 versus the Chicago Bears. And here's what Matt LaFleur had to say about it. He says, I think there's value to going out there and playing, but playing well. And I think it's going to be important for this team to finish strong heading into the playoffs, no matter who they end up playing. But a big portion as to why you would play your starters, not just the momentum that you carry into the playoffs, but a big portion as to why you would play your starters is going to be playoff seeding. And that's certainly going to matter, right? So it says right here, the Packers are currently the number 7 seed in the NFC standings and have already clinched a playoff berth, but they can rise as high as 6, where they were at previously prior to losing to the Minnesota Vikings. And they need for the Commanders to lose to the Dallas Cowboys this week. Let's take a look at the scenario right here. It says, like the Commanders, there is a big advantage to getting the number 6 seed, and the Packers should go out and just go all out and get that number 6 seed. So it's important for them to win this Chicago Bears game. And now this game, you can say, a lot of people I've heard out there say this game really doesn't mean much for the Packers, because either way, they're going to have to beat good teams in order to get there. But you want the best road possible, and the best road currently is at that number 6 seed. So let's take a look. As you can see right here, this is the playoff picture bracket as it stands right now. Here's what is going to potentially change. You got Minnesota playing Detroit. Detroit has the number 1 seed locked up currently, but depending on the outcome of that game, that could flop. With the Buccaneers, if Falcons need a win and the Buccaneers to lose in order to kind of sneak into that number 4 seed there, I don't see that happening. I don't see anything changing there. I do think the Buccaneers will retain their 4 seed there. And depending on the outcome there, now Detroit has lost to Tampa Bay. One of their only 2 losses of the season came, I think it was week 2 or 3 against Tampa Bay. That team plays Detroit pretty well. Okay, so that could change things dramatically. And then you look at the Packers. They've got to go on the road playing in a very tough environment at Philly. Okay, so that would change things a whole lot if they're able to get a win against Chicago and Washington's able to lose to the Dallas Cowboys. They would bump down and play within their division against Philadelphia. That becomes a difficult game all of a sudden for Philadelphia. I think even if playing the Packers, it's a difficult game for them as well. But the Packers would play the Rams. If not, they would travel to Los Angeles. Now, that was a team that I was scared of playing in this playoff. When we started talking a few weeks back, this is a red-hot Rams team, and I thought the Packers were red-hot. And if they would have beat Minnesota, I would have, without question, I don't care who we're playing, but they didn't go out and play well against Minnesota. They looked a little sloppy, and one of the big reasons for that, and you can take a look since the bye week, one of the categories we needed to win was penalties, and we've at least tied in that category, if not won that since the bye week. We've cleaned up our penalties dramatically the latter half of the season. Same thing with Jordan Love, cleaning up him protecting the ball. He's looked a little sloppy over the last couple of games, but he's protected the ball pretty well. We've won the takeaway category, something that we kind of slipped on prior to the bye week. That's something that we've cleaned up. Pressures, that's something we've cleaned up dramatically as well since trading away Preston Smith, and since the bye week, we've put some pressure on the quarterback, with the exception of last week against Minnesota. So the Packers have done that. So the biggest hurdle I feel against Chicago and heading into the playoffs all of a sudden is you take a look at this right here, the highest drop rate in the NFL per PFF. You got Dontavian Wicks leading it with 19%. Former Packer Allen Lazard with 19%. Jaden Reed, third highest drop rate per PFF at 15.9%. And Valdez Scantling, another former Packer, at 15.8%. To me, the biggest hurdle for the Packers, they've got to hang on to the balls. Okay, so Dontavian Wicks, that's become a problem for him throughout the entire season. Romeo Doubs is right up there as well. When you start talking about drop passes out there, Romeo Doubs is tied with 7 drops on the season. He's tied for third most drops on the season, along with Reed and Wicks are tied for second with 9 catchable balls that they've dropped, and those have stalled drives. So that's, to me, the biggest hurdle that the Packers need to overcome heading into the playoffs. So leave your comments, and as always, go Pack Go.